Johnny, did Shohei Ohtani say that he didn't want to play for the Angels? Like, where's all this information coming from? Today, we're going to tell you what Shohei has actually said about playing for the Angels, about his teammates, and about his future long-term with the Angels. So, it's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Every show is free and available on all platforms like Apple Podcast and Spotify. And the best way to help us out is by giving us a rate and a review. And those watching on YouTube, make sure that you're subscribed and click the bell to be notified every time a new episode drops. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started.
Thanks for being here with us for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
We are lifelong fans of this team, and we're hoping our fan-guided wisdom can lead the Angels to the World Series. World Series or bust, Mike.
Heck yeah.
We got to have
go.
that attitude. Hey, we're
ready.
doing 3 episodes a week this week, but next week we'll be back to 5 days a week. So we're excited about that, and we hope that you are too.
Back again.
Thanks for hanging with us during the off season, and as we ramp up, get to spring training, get to the WBC, get to the season, which we're all looking forward to.
Heck yeah.
We'll be ramping back up to 5 episodes a week. But first, Mike, it's time. We had a conversation about our boy, Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, John, I've just been really, really frustrated. Can I just vent and confess some things?
Give it to me.
I am just so sick and tired and sick of what the media is saying about Shohei Ohtani. And it wouldn't be as bad, but now I'm seeing fans start to repeat their narrative, the media's narrative, that Shohei's leaving and that he doesn't want to be here and he doesn't care about this team and he wants to win and why would he want to stay and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And people are actually reporting this as fact, John, and it's not fact. And so we thought it would be really great to take a moment on the pod today and to talk about the things that Shohei actually said. Not things that people are interpreting that he said, but things that he actually said. So today's show, really, John, is for those fans that believe that Shohei is going to their team. And today's show is for those fans that don't want Shohei to go anywhere. And so we decided we're going to take 3 statements that Shohei has made, and that's really all that he has made. He hasn't said anything more than what we're about to share with you. He made 3 specific statements that he actually said. It wasn't a deep fake. It wasn't an interpretation, right?
Wasn't AI.
It was actually, it wasn't Chat GPT. Yeah. It was actually Shohei Ohtani. And this was reported by our friend, we can call him our friend now because he's been on the show, That's friend right. Sam Blum over at The Athletic. Make sure that you subscribe, $1.99 a month.
Yes.
And we're going to take those 3 statements and we're going to talk through what Shohei actually said, and then we're going to give our thoughts on that. So, John, why don't you give us the first statement?
Yeah, since everybody wants to put words in Shohei's mouth, Alana Rizzo, we're going to actually talk about what he said his future holds. So that first statement was made in a Tokyo airport, was reported by the Associated Press. Now, there was some controversy, I guess you could say, around if this was interpreted correctly. We've actually had a lot of fans who are from Japan and or Japanese kind of reach out and say, I wouldn't have actually said it that way. I wouldn't have interpreted it that way. So let's just report what the AP said and what Sam Blum had put into the article according to the AP. Here's what he said. I have to say that August and September in particular felt longer to me than last year. We were not able to play as many good games as we would like, including 14 consecutive losses. So I have a rather negative impression of the season. And everybody went and ran with, negative impression of the season. Mike, here are some thoughts.
Yeah.
For you and me, for fans of Ohtani, for fans who want Ohtani on their team. Thought number 1, this was not about the Angels organization as a whole. These
Right.
comments were made about the last couple of months
Right.
out of last season and how much the team struggled,
Yeah.
which is true. This
Yeah.
actually happened. The team was not very good last season,
No.
other than Ohtani and 3/4 of a Mike Trout season, right?
Right.
Plus, this is around the time that Artie said he was going to sell. Joe Madden was fired after a tough season, and then they had to finish that tough season. So Sam
Yeah.
Blum wrote, Ohtani's words shouldn't be used as evidence of a potentially negative perception he has toward the Angels. So I have a question
Right.
for you.
Okay.
And a question for listeners, for viewers such as yourself. Shouldn't this be the way every player feels after the Angels 2022 season? Is this
Right.
a shocker? What is this?
It shouldn't be a shocker because last year sucked and it was terrible. And
Somehow it was worse than 2021 too.
That's
That
the
was-
most remarkable thing too, John,
Yeah.
right? Like that was the thing that I think that was most devastating because we went off at the beginning of the year. We were really good, and then Jeff Passan had to go and jinx us and say, "Hey, you should look at what's happening in Southern California," right? And so really this is Jeff Passan's fault. And so we're just going to blame him for the rest of the pod. But this is how all players should have felt. Nobody's going to say, "Oh man, that was a really great year and I put up really great numbers." Shohei is the consummate team player. He wants his team to be really successful, and he wants to be able to contribute to that. And I think I would expect this from the star of the team, right? And my question for you, John, is if Shohei had said anything other than this, do you think that it still would have been taken out of context and used against the Halos? Because that's what it feels like.
Shohei is a very humble guy. Shohei is the epitome of humility. For as good as he is, he's not bragging on himself. He's not out there flaunting it, right? Like he just goes out there and he does great at what he does, which is play baseball on the mound, at the plate, maybe even the outfield. We know we haven't got a chance to see it in the in MLB, but
Yeah.
I watched him throw a laser beam from right field in Japan. But if he had bragged about himself and maybe didn't say anything positive about the Angels, that would have been spun into Shohei knows he's great and he knows he's better than this team, right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Oh no, that's absolutely what would have happened.
It
It wouldn't have just been the media, John. It would have been fans too.
Yeah,
People
100%.
are grabbing on to anything that this guy says. And,
Straws, Mike. Straws.
That's exactly what it is. And then they're having it filtered through their perspective, and their perspective is not Shohei's perspective, right?
Right.
This is what Shohei said. He said, "I had a rather negative impression of the season, and the last couple of months were a struggle." And so, including that 14 consecutive losses, yeah, of course he's going to say that. And I love those listeners and those that view Locked On Angels in Japan. Thank you for reaching out immediately and saying, "Hey, that's not exactly what he said," because it came off as like Shohei hates this team and he wants to burn down the stadium and all of those things, right? And so we really appreciate you. And by the way, they have also reached out and have told us that that they love Shohei on the Angels, and in Japan, many of the fans in Japan would be shocked if he left. That's another conversation, but that's the vibe we're getting from the fans in Japan, John.
That should be the narrative. That should be what's out there. Should be somebody who has a finger on the pulse in Japan. An Angel/Ohtani fan would probably know the vibes that are happening over there better than we would. And so for them to have that impression, I think is encouraging. The last thing I'll say, Mike, is the fact that Shohei Ohtani speaking about himself. He every time he speaks to the media, it's about how he performed, how he did in a certain situation. It's never any ire or ill will toward the other players. And so the fact that he was honest about his how he felt about the season is the exact opposite of what we're getting from what I like to call state-run media, anything that's owned by the Angels, because you want to talk about like honesty and transparency. You don't get that from the talking heads. You don't get that from people who are in the Angels media, right? And for Shohei to be honest about the season, I think is actually a good thing. And it's not the same, kicking the tire down the road, kind of glossing over the real issue, which is ownership and the Angels not doing very well, not doing enough to put a good team around Shohei. I think they've addressed that. Perry Manassian's addressed the issues from last year pretty well. I think there's still room to keep improving.
Sure.
But as far as the team that we have going into 2023, I'm excited about that. However, if Shohei were not being honest, then that would be a whole different conversation. So I want to go on the record and just say we appreciate the honesty and the transparency. And that's all he's ever been and will continue to be for the Angels, for himself in his career. Shohei is a very admirable person. And with all of his talent, the amount of humility that he has is completely remarkable, just like his talent on the field. So coming up on Locked On Angels, what did Shohei actually say about wanting to win? And we've got that quote for you coming up soon here on Locked On Angels.
Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. This year, the only app that you need at your Super Bowl party is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports so fun and so easy. You can download FanDuel right now, and then you can do a Super Bowl bet at Super Bowl 57. It's called a no-sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel lets you bet on everything from the money line to the point spreads to who will score a touchdown, all that good stuff. And FanDuel, this sportsbook app, it's really safe, it's really secure, and it's super easy to use. Best of all, you get paid your winnings instantly. So join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/lockedon to claim your no-sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen today. And for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB Prospects. If you want credibility, if you want somebody who knows their stuff about the minor leaguers in Major League Baseball, you got to check out Lindsey Crosby's show, Locked On MLB Prospects. He's a prospect encyclopedia. He's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You okay over there, bud?
Woo! When I'm drinking water and it goes down the wrong pipe, it got me. All right. And we're back. Hey, Johnny, the second statement that Shohei made was after his October 5th start. Why don't you share that?
Yeah, Ohtani was asked about the Angels' chances of reaching the postseason next year and his chances at staying long-term. Here's what Ohtani said, Mike. I don't have much to say about the offseason transactions, but what I do have control over is for me to get better in the offseason. Do better than this year. The better I get, the better chances of us getting into the postseason. What a guy. What a guy that Shohei Ohtani is.
What a guy.
I can't speak to, off-season stuff, future transactions, but what I can do is control my destiny, control the team's destiny by how good I can get, how much better I can become. Good grief, man. He still sees room for improvement in his game when he's already breaking records and doing things that no one has ever done before. He finds a way. Have you seen how large he looks?
He looks
this offseason, Mike?
Huge. Jacked. That guy's worked out.
He's coming back, and he's coming back strong. Now, Phil Nevin was recently on MLB radio, and he said recently that Shohei Ohtani was upset he didn't win the MVP.
As he should be.
And these comments already show that he's ready to prove something. Now, speaking of out of context, there is a few people that have taken that statement as if it was a knock against Aaron Judge and that Ohtani wanted Aaron Judge to give him the trophy. That's not what he's saying. What he's saying is, I think that I can be better and I should have had a season where it was unequivocally obvious that Shohei Ohtani was the MVP. And that's something, again, that he can control. And so to be upset he didn't win MVP isn't that he doesn't like Judge. It's, no, I can be better. I can do this. And even though you and I and other people gave him first place votes, it goes to show that he needed more something, right? He needed, I don't know if it's because he wasn't on a winning team or if Aaron Judge broke the record, but it was obvious to writers, baseball writers, that Shohei should have done more. I don't know what else he could have done other than reach 20 wins or something like that, or, have a sub 3 ERA. He already had an incredible season. He's the MVP in our books, but Shohei going on the record here and speaking to Phil Nevin about how upset he was he didn't win is just a further indication of, hey, what can I do to prove to everybody that I deserve it? So I thought those were interesting comments. Yeah. Don't take that and spin it about Shohei not liking Judge. That's just not true.
Right. I don't know if you saw the Fangraphs prediction of what Shohei will do this season, but they're even better. His numbers are even better than what he did last season. And it's so funny that that's what people are talking about, because they're like, well, he wasn't MVP last season. It was totally Aaron Judge. But then the numbers are even better, and people are like, oh, he should have been MVP. And so that narrative is already really interesting.
It's already started.
Yeah. Shohei then was asked about if he'd be open to a new contract. Here's what he said, John. I haven't really thought that far ahead. Earlier in the season, at the trade deadline, Shohei was asked if he wanted to remain with the Angels. He said, regardless of where I'm playing, I want to give it my all. I'm going to try to win all the ball games that are right in front of me. I'm with the Angels right now. I'm very thankful for what they have done. I really love this team. I really love my teammates. Right now, I'm an Angel, and that's all I can really focus on at this point in the season. So, Johnny, I love how Shohei has responded to these questions. Mm-hmm. Here's the point, though, is that he's not really been incredibly specific, and I actually think he shouldn't be incredibly specific, right? Because he's in the middle of negotiating. He's negotiating, right? And so, Johnny, how specific would you be if you were in Shohei Ohtani's shoes? I mean, doesn't it seem wise that he would be kind of ambiguous, because he does have a big contract coming up? He is going to be a free agent. You wouldn't want to throw out all of your cards, I guess, on the table in the media. You want to do that face-to-face with Perry Manassian and with Artie Moreno, right?
Look, this reminds me of the Noah Syndergaard situation, in which he seemed to indicate he would like to come back to the Mets, that he seemed to indicate that he would love to stay in New York. And then he signed with us before the 2022 season. And Mets fans have never let him live that down.
Right.
Because he made it seem like he wanted to be back in New York. He took a deal with the Angels, which you and I were excited about, and Mets fans have piled on him ever since. The New York media has done it, the fans have done it, and they just don't like Noah Syndergaard. Is that the kind of relationship that Shohei Ohtani is going to look for with the Angel fans? I don't think so.
No.
I don't think that he wants to give an indication one way or another, because if he provides false hope in the same way that New York Mets fans have perceived Noah Syndergaard to do, then I think Angel fans are soiled on their relationship with Shohei Ohtani. So I don't think he should get specific at all. I don't think that should be part of what he answers. I like that he's being ambiguous, because, again, he's dealing with what's right in front of him.
Yeah.
That's the game.
Yeah.
That's how he can get better. That's what he can help, or how he can contribute to the team and help them get to the playoffs. He's got his focus, Mike. It's not looking down the road 5-10 years of where he's going to be. It's, what can I do right now? He's living for today, living in this moment. And again, being humble about it. He's not making it complicated with the Angels. He's not putting any bad juju out there in terms of, the relationship with the team and whatnot. Anybody who's painted a picture of Shohei not having a good relationship with the team is doing exactly that. They are hearing what they want to hear, seeing what they want to see. In fact, Perry Manassian recently in the press conference said they have a great relationship with Shohei Ohtani. He said, we were able to get 2 deals done with Shohei Ohtani, and that's not easy to do. It's not easy to get 1 deal done, let alone 2 with players, and specifically Shohei Ohtani, who commands a very interesting and monetarily important contract, right?
Yeah,
significant contract. So again, I don't want Shohei to be specific, because I don't want him to give false hope to anyone. And a question for people who question that notion is, what would you say if you were in his position? What do you think, Mike?
Well, I think he's taking his cues from Mike Trout, because when Trout was going to be a free agent and Philadelphia said, oh, he's coming here, right? He didn't go there. And whenever he was asked about it, he said a lot of the same things that Shohei Ohtani said. I want to win, and I want to be on a winning team. I want to have a winning environment. I want to really produce, those types of things. And so I think what we're finding with Shohei is he's following the lead of the star of this team as he becomes the next star of this team. And so I'm 100% okay with how he's handled himself in the media, because if he was going to leave, he's not going to indicate that. And if he was going to stay, he's not going to indicate that until he actually knows that the contract has been signed. Because we see that with like Mike Trout. Mike Trout was, I think 2 days before, everybody said, oh, he's leaving and he's going to go to, right? And then there was a breaking news report, and then it was Trout really excited, and he had already signed the contract when he was being interviewed about staying, and he's like, I was dying inside because I wanted to tell people. But I think the posture that we see from Shohei is definitely a posture that we would want from a superstar, and it's something that he learned from Mike Trout.
So finally, we get to a third statement. This one was the one that everybody has run with since it was said. I really love this team. I love the fans. I love the atmosphere of the team. But more than that, I want to win. That's the biggest thing for me. So I'll leave it at that. Now, Mike, that was one that, again, a lot of Japanese fans who understood what Shohei said in context felt like that one was a little more definitive than it actually was, especially that, so I'll leave it at that.
It's that last phrase that in English, right, feels so definitive, and everybody freaked out, and then our friends in Japan were like, why are you freaking out? Calm down, Americans.
Calm yourselves.
Right?
Exactly.
English speakers.
GM Perry Minasian, GM PM, said, I'd love to have him here for a long time, and my kids wouldn't talk to me if I let Ohtani get away. So he's got some incentive there. He said that over the winter meetings on MLB Network. And so the idea that Shohei wants to win, of course he wants to win. Every player who's a professional player wants to win. Everybody in baseball, football, basketball, hockey, they all want to win. This is not anything new. And I think it's the idea that, you know what, I really love my circumstances. I love this team. I love the fans. I love the atmosphere, but I really want to win. And so you could take that and say, well, he's here in Anaheim, and while he loves these things, the most important thing is winning. Now, the problem that this statement has yielded, and not by any of Shohei's doing, is that it leads people like Alana Rizzo to go on national TV with Mad Dog and say, he hates Anaheim. He can't wait to get out. That's the biggest pile of crap I've ever heard in my life. Her and her pen pointing at the camera when she talks. And so it just drives me nuts. And it's just, when the last time we talked about Mad Dog, people were like, why are you even watching Mad Dog?
Right,
and it
exactly.
Was just like, well, it's because it came up on Twitter. And people responded to it.
Yep.
And so we were like, well, we got to talk about it too. So, Mike, here's the thing about this whole idea of winning. What does it take to keep Shohei Ohtani in Anaheim?
Yeah.
What does a winning season look like? What does winning mean? What do you think?
I think this season we have to at least get to the divisional round. And I would even go as far as to say we got to get to the championship series. I think that divisional round is kind of, it would be a make or break for me. If I'm the GM, if I'm Phil Nevin, if I'm a part of this organization, I would say like just getting into the playoffs isn't sufficient, right? We're going to be excited about that, but we have also gotten to the playoffs in 2014, and then we were swept out of it as the best team, right? And so I think that the Angels, if they get the wild card, which I think they'll probably be one of the wild card teams, I think that actually will be good, but it's not going to be enough. And I would say we have to be really, really competitive in the divisional round and get to the championship series, or we go to the farthest that the divisional round can go to and lose. I think we have to get pretty far to satisfy Shohei. And I would also say this, John. I think that with Shohei Ohtani, we actually benefit in a wild card game and in a divisional round game because you're going to get Shohei at least twice, right?
Yeah.
And he's going to be on his game. And what you're going to find is if the Angels can move deep in the playoffs, the spotlight is going to grow, and it's going to be really exciting. I remember looking at tweets from like our friend Andrew from Angels Top Plays and Brett McGuire and some of those guys, and watching Bryce Harper in the World Series was so much fun. And people said, I just can't wait until the other guy on the Angels, Mike Trout, is in a situation like this, right?
Yeah.
But what happened is the spotlight got so bright, and we got to know Bryce Harper, who was hurt. His arm was, busted. He's out there with one arm, but he's crushing it. And I think that that's going to be the thing that would incentivize Shohei staying in Anaheim, because suddenly more eyes are on Anaheim, not just because of him or because of Mike Trout, but because this team is actually competitive. It's a fun team to watch, and they're actually winning games. And so my opinion is that they just can't make the wild card, and they just can't make the divisional round. I think that they have to be competitive and get to the championship series.
I think they need to be a force this season. In 2023, they have to show everybody that they're a good team who's not just going to squeak in to a wild card spot. They have to be competitive, and they have to maybe secure spot number 1 or 2. I know the Astros probably win this division, but hopefully they can stay competitive with them. But again, I think they have to be a force this season. That's really what it comes down to. And once they get to that wild card round, which is 3 games now, by the way, it's not a one and done anymore. So that just increases the chances. But again, like you said, I think they got to get to the championship series. It can't be best team in baseball like 2014 and then swept in 3 games. That was just a disaster and so disappointing.
Yeah.
And with the team that they have going in with 2023, they've got to be a force. It's going to be led by Shohei. It's going to be led by Mike Trout. It's going to be led by the depth that they have, the arms that they have in the rotation. This is a good team. And so I think that they have to be a force. So here's the conclusion here, Mike.
Here we go.
This is what Ohtani has said, and only what Ohtani has said. Nothing about wanting to leave. Nothing about disliking the team. And if you need proof that he doesn't dislike his team, just go watch some clips of him interacting with David Fletcher and Jared Walsh and people on this team that he loves being with. And there's nothing about what has been out there in the media that's been true. The things that the media say, the speculation, they can speculate all they want. They can try to get all the clicks they want. But at the end of the day, it's Shohei's decision, his alone. And there's nothing that's been said or done to indicate that he wants out. So we can shut that narrative down. We can do it right here. Tag a friend and tell him to watch this episode, because that's the truth about Shohei Ohtani.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen every day. Now make your second listen, the Locked On MLB Prospect Show with our friend Lindsey Crosby. He's a prospect encyclopedia, John, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. And his podcast is free and available wherever you get your podcasts.
So get at us on social media, on Twitter at Locked On Angels, or at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're on YouTube, comment down below. We'd love to hear from you there as well. Mike, what do we have on deck for Friday's show?
Well, the WBC is coming, which is really exciting, right?
Yes.
And we're asking the question, who from the Angels is actually playing? How does the WBC actually work? And something that we have to be thoughtful about is, do the Angels have any concerns about how playing in the WBC so early will impact their stars later in the season? So we're going to work through all of those questions and give you all of the great answers Friday on Locked On Angels.
Looking forward to that conversation. We hope you'll come back and join us for that, talking about the WBC, who's in, who's playing, how's it going to look for us in 2023. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
That's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Angels, and we'll see you back here on Friday.